Welcome to Inside Marketing with MarketSurge, your front row seat to the boldest ideas and smartest strategies in the marketing game. Your host is Reed Hansen, Chief Growth Officer at MarketSurge.
Hello and welcome to Inside Marketing with MarketSurge. I'm Reed Hansen, the Chief Growth Officer of MarketSurge. I love to interview business leaders who have great insights on leadership, sales, and marketing. And today I'm joined by Hudson Roberts, Head of In-House Sales, Retention, and Digital Marketing with Tri Guard Pest Control. Welcome, Hudson.
Hi, Reed. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Hudson, would you mind giving us a quick overview of your background and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, 100%. So, about 4 or 5 years ago, I was just a young kid, had lots of experience working the fields as a farmer and landscaping and stuff like that, and wanted to get into the marketing world. So, I met a guy who convinced me to go do door-to-door sales. My brother was actually into it a little bit, and I ended up doing door-to-door sales for 1 year. Made pretty good money. Didn't realize how much money could be made and how marketing works in general until I had that experience. But it also taught me that I didn't want to do door to door forever. So I figured out a way on how to start making sales on the phone. So I worked for a sales company for Vivint for a while. Everybody knows Vivint. They're a security systems company. Worked for them for a little bit on the phones, and then ended up coming back to my old boss who owns the pest control company and was like, "Hey, I think you should start an in-house sales department. I think there's a lot of money to be made online." And he didn't like it at first, but eventually we came to an agreement, and it was just me at first. I was making phone calls, and eventually it grew a little bit more. I pulled on a couple guys, and then it grew even more and more, and then eventually I started working with the retention side of the company as well, because same skill set to get people to stay with you as it is to get people to start in the first place. So ended up starting 2 departments for the company, managed them for the last few years and everything, and then within the last couple years I've more heavily leaned into, well, how do we increase our in-house leads, rather than just the organic stuff that's coming to us? What do we do online? And so I've really gotten into the digital marketing, everything from even just like website details to a little bit of strategy as far as Google, as well as other lead sources that we can pay into, and we've kind of just grown quite a bit. We're getting bigger, and we're making more money than we've ever made in here in the in-house sales department and everything, and so it's been pretty good and very educational. So
That's awesome. So, one thing I've really enjoyed about working with you, Hudson, is that you're willing to try a lot of new things, and you're always, looking for what's next, and willing to again, attempt anything, and I've appreciated that about you. Can you talk to us a little bit about TriGuard's high level marketing playbook? You have a variety of channels. You mentioned organic and SEO ranking, and
yeah.
but talk to which are your priorities, what get the biggest slice of your budget, and why do you emphasize ones over others?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I appreciate you saying I'm not sure if it's very wise of us to try as many things as we do, but a lot of this is a lot of adaptation, right? You have to learn as you go, and so you do have to be able to adapt. We've tried a lot of things in recent years. This year, the biggest thing we're pouring money into is Google, right? Pay-per-click, as well as like Google search, as well as local services ads. That's definitely where our biggest budget is going this year. We found that as far as everything that we've in the past spent money on, aside from natural growth and customer referral programs and things like that, the most effective thing is how we rank online. Right, that's going to be the next biggest thing. We still have some door-to-door guys that do the door-to-door sales teams and everything like that, and that helps get our brand awareness more. Obviously, as you have our guys out there, people see our trucks, people see our guys, so there's a little bit of natural growth that happens there. But yeah, as far as where we put our budget to increase leads, we found that Google and our online presence is really big. So we've done that a lot. In past years that we haven't really liked, and this is something that I think is helpful for a company that's a little bit smaller to get started, but we're getting big enough that it's just not as profitable for us anymore, is paying into lead source generators. So like previously we've done there's a lot of people out there. There's Home Advisor, Angie Leads. There's lots of different groups that will do different things, and those things are really good. Some people have a lot of success with that, but there's a lot of different laws and regulations regarding customer information being sold to third-party companies and stuff now that's made it a little bit more difficult. And so we found it more beneficial to push more toward generating our own leads through Google and other things like that. So we have done Facebook before, Meta. We've used them. They're great. We actually totally biffed it and failed doing that the first time we tried. We spent a lot of money and got nothing back. But we realized that it was the strategy, and so we do have a new guy that's kind of heading that up for us, and seem to have some success. We're actually pulling in leads for that, and we have high hopes for that this year. So um, does that
Yeah.
kind of answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. And so,
Yeah.
you have your door-to-door sales force, and remind me again, you have three offices, right? And or three geographies you cover.
Yeah,
Accurate?
so we have two offices in the greater Seattle area, so everywhere from, almost the Canadian border all the way down south of Olympia. And then we also have an office in Vancouver, Washington, so super south, and then Portland, Oregon area. And then we have an area here in Boise, Idaho, which is where I am. And then we have an office in Denver, Colorado. So definitely grown a lot, Pacific Northwest area primarily. So
Okay. Just curious, like, do you have any insight on the decision making? So you're in Seattle, but there are other metros within, that area. Are you wipe Seattle over others?
yeah.
What?
Seattle's actually where we started, South
Okay.
Seattle, south of it, Renton area.
Mhm.
The guy that started the company, Terry, he's no longer around, but he started in Renton before I ever met him. He's from Idaho, but he knew that that was just going to be a better market. There's a higher need. There's more bugs over there. It's a little bit more of a humid climate than Idaho. Idaho's pretty dry over here. We have ants and wasps a lot, but not a lot of the other crazy pests that they get over there. So it was a great market to start out back in 2016, 2017. So that's where we started, and then eventually we grew down to Vancouver and Portland area, and then within the last 4 years is when we started moving things over to Idaho and started our headquarters over here. So obviously, when it comes to pest control, you go where the bugs are, and that's why we definitely started over there. But there are plenty of pests in the drier climates too, like here in Idaho, that we've field mice, stuff like that. We've definitely found our little niche here. So
Okay. So you have door-to-door sales force operating in all those areas you described.
yep, yeah, we send out teams. Sometimes it's larger in one area than in another,
Okay.
obviously. And one of the biggest things that we've found, and I guess within the last few years, is that there's a significant amount of money that we're losing by not capitalizing on our digital
Mhm.
presence because of how much we put into the door-to-door guys.
Ah,
Historically has been like a great thing, but with so much reputation, so much, I don't know, people seeing us and seeing our trucks, but then not finding much of us online or any of our, making sure we have a good online presence. There's like a huge margin of people that would otherwise come to our company if they could only find us. And so it's like it's really big to make sure that you have a huge online presence. Everything's digital now, right? It's getting more and more that way. And
yeah.
so I think the days are coming that door-to-door salesmen maybe eventually within the next, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 years start to go away. We'll
Yeah.
see. But um, so making sure that you have a good strategy there on the online is huge.
Yeah, and I ask about the door-to-door sales force because so we work with a lot of different industries, and in pest and a few other home service related businesses, um, door-to-door sales is quite common, but it would
Yeah.
seem quite daunting, I think, for like a photography studio to even consider a door-to-door approach, or many of the other services that are possible. Like door to door just sounds so foreign or so
Mhm.
antiquated, but it's obviously been extremely effective for many years in your industry. So um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely big in the service industry. And I think, we have a lot of cool things that are coming out nowadays, AI that we're going to talk about here soon.
Yeah.
A lot of other things that make things automated and automatic, and information's everywhere. So it's a lot easier to figure things out even without the face-to-face interaction.
Mhm.
But there is still something about that face-to-face interaction, that personal experience that carries a little bit of weight, which is why I think things like door-to-door still have such a big success rate currently.
Yeah. Well, and now kind of the middle between your digital presence and your door-to-door staff, you have call center professionals, right? And
Yep.
it, how would you balance the between those two, like human-driven sales forces? Where do you put more manpower door to door or on the phone?
Yeah, good question. So, we definitely during the summer months have quite a few door-to-door guys. I think it's 200 this year, the biggest team
Oh,
we've ever had, which is
okay.
it's a lot of people. Our in-house, obviously, we have a really big customer service staff, not as big as the sales force. Our service staff is able to realistic, and when I say our service staff, I'm talking about not my in-house team, not my retention team. The office side with the customer service scheduling and billing is somewhere around 30 people.
Okay.
And so it's a decently big team. Really good at following up with our customers, and we just love them to death. My team, I have a handful of sales guys and then a handful of retention guys, I think. Yeah, somewhere around 10 or something. Um, People that are just to do the in-house. And because we're on the phones and we have the one, two, three, few markets, 6 offices that we handle, we are able to handle it remotely from Boise, right? So our whole team's over the phones is here. Um, and so it's a smaller team to handle the customer service side than it is to do the sales side. But the sales is a seasonal thing. They're here during the summer months when it's hot and there's a lot of bugs out. They hit it hard. They make a lot of sales, and then they're gone. And then the rest of the year, it's all us, here as the office staff and the in-house team.
Okay. No, yeah,
That I guess did
that's
that go along with your question?
yeah, yeah, and and I find this really interesting, and I think a lot of people, maybe not in pest or solar or security, would be interested in this. And in our part of the country, in Chicago, where the weather's pretty moderate generally, we don't get a ton of bugs. And funny enough, we did get somebody knocking on our door one time for pest control in the 10 or so years we've lived here, and sure enough, he was from a Utah-based, or yeah, he was a Utah-based pest control company. And it is interesting how
Hmm.
that part of the world is like the source of
Yeah,
of all the
it's true. True.
all the world's door-to-door salesmen. Uh,
It's
I'm
true. We definitely
obviously,
get a lot of guys from there. So,
yeah, yeah. And I grew up in Utah, and I was born in Caldwell, where your headquarters are. So I
oh,
have
there you
ties
go.
in both areas.
Yeah.
No shade intended. The
Yeah, no, you're good.
So let's talk a little bit about like some of the hacks you use. Uh, you do this every day.
Actually, can
Yeah,
I actually
please.
jump into that real quick?
Yeah,
What just to rewind a little
yeah,
bit. Um, there has been a unique set of challenges that comes with doing the door to door that's
oh,
perhaps is a little bit different than a lot of companies that don't do door to door, right? Traditionally, digital marketing, it's all about your online presence, it's about your reputation, it's about building, basically just a name for yourself online, which can be difficult anyway. And you'll always get those people that don't like your company that leave negative reviews and stuff like that. But people don't like solicitors, like at all. They hate them, and that's understandable. My guys, they're expected to knock somewhere around 200 doors a day, and they talk to half of them that actually answer the door, and then they expect to get a couple sales a day, right? So two yeses out of 100 people that you know say no, or sometimes worse things than no. Um, and consequently, a lot of people get really upset, and there's a lot of negative reviews posted about salesmen, about solicitors, about stuff like that, like leave me alone. And and that's an understandable frustration for a lot of people. And so there's a significant amount of, I guess, negativity online that you actually have to learn to combat when it comes to an industry that you have solicitors out there. Um, and so there's a significant amount of efforts that we've had to learn as far as increasing our reviews. We've had to put special attention into building really good interaction with our customers and reviews to the point we have processes that incentivize our technicians, incentivize our salesmen, incentivize even our office staff to make good reviews happen. And we even have a whole CRM and everything that's dedicated to just sending. And in fact, we do this through one of your guys' sister companies, Approve,
mhm.
sends out a text message asking for good reviews from our customers that love our service. And so we've had to do a significant amount of those efforts to make sure that our online presence is keeping up with the little bit of negativity that comes from the fact that we market the way we do. So there has been a unique set of challenges there that has been good to learn how to overcome that some companies might not have to go through if they're not doing any type of door-to-door solicitation. So
No, that's a great insight. And reviews are super valuable in any business. And you are already, like you said, you're starting kind of behind because of just your required sales process, you got to play
Mhm.
catch up, and so you have had to master that review process, and I'm sure
Yeah.
put a lot of time and effort into getting that right.
Well, and we've done before we found your guys' sister company
Yeah.
Approve, we poured so much efforts into just trying to get more and more good reviews, and you guys were a godsend, a
Oh,
straight up miracle for us. The way you guys built out your and I'm sorry, I'm not sure if you're trying to
yeah.
spotlight Approve right
No,
now,
no, it's
not just
fine.
market
No,
search and
yeah.
stuff, but the way you guys built it out is perfect. It makes it super convenient for us. It automatically sends the personalized text message to the customers, and it has increased the amount of reviews we got like more than times five, and it was just fantastic. So I love that you guys do what you do. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, and to that point, whether you're using approved software, which we're big fans of, or you create in your own CRM a process, it needs to be automated and it needs to be consistent. Like that's 101. I'm sure you guys are at the 400 level on getting these positive reviews, but if you depend on your own personal memory to remember to send out a request for a review, or you've got the hope strategy where like I'll just do a good job and I hope they leave me a review. People forget like in 5 seconds after you leave that they should do that, and so it is like on you as the business leader, the business to collect those reviews, and they're just
Yeah,
too important from SEO and authority and reputation to look past. So
yeah,
oh,
100%. Sorry, and I didn't mean to interrupt your other question. We can
oh
move on to
no,
the
it's
next one.
okay. It's okay. And actually, I mean, I think that's relevant because we're talking about hacks, and people don't often think of reviews as a part of marketing, but as you've described it, it's both brand and reputation management, but more and more people, as a part of their own process, looking for vendors, they don't have maybe personal relationships with you, and so they want to hear some positive feedback before they make a purchase.
Yeah,
So it,
100%.
it is marketing, and but let's talk a little bit more. Let's go a little further. As you've been doing this for many many years, um, can you tell us a little bit about some like unconventional things that you may be doing, whether it's like a little tactic you've discovered, or
Yeah.
guerrilla marketing, anything like that?
Yeah, 100%. So, I mean, there's a couple things that we've done that are a little bit more specific. And I know there's a lot of people and a lot of places that have done different incentives
Mhm.
for, their customers, for new people coming on, for, things. There's a million and one ideas out there. And just a couple of the ones that we've liked to the point that they've stuck. I'll just kind of mention a couple. It's like one of them, like for customers specifically, customer referrals. A lot of our sales, a huge chunk of our sales happened because somebody told somebody about us. Somebody loves the service and told their mom or their neighbor or somebody, which is fantastic. And so we've tried to push that by incentivizing our customers to refer people. So we have a gift card program. We give people Amazon gift cards if they send someone our way and they sign up for service. As soon as they get their initial service, we call the person that referred them and we just have a personal, hey, thank you so much. I'm going to send you this gift card. You guys are awesome. Just a little bit of an incentive for that. And we
Mhm.
have that advertised on our cards that we put on the doors after we finish the service. So everybody sees it and it's great. It's one of those things that's just a constant reminder to our customers that, maybe bring us up, maybe spread the word. So that's one of the things that's kind of stuck. We do that. Um, Something for like new customers outside of our existing customer base. So people that have used our services before, or lists we can buy for people who have, they're new homeowners or something like that. Sending out voicemail campaigns. Like I
Mm.
literally just surprisingly successful. It works. Um, I record a little voicemail from me. Hey, this is Hudson just calling from Tri Guard Pest Control. You guys have used our services before, or I saw that you're a recent homeowner. We would just love to have you use our services, wanted to offer you guys a discount we're doing for somebody in your area, right? Come with just a little voicemail, and then mass send it out to that list. Everybody gets the same voicemail. It sounds personal. It just automatically leaves the voicemail, and they get it. They're like, oh, interesting, pest control. Somebody called me. They call back. Hey, I talked to Hudson. One of my sales guys picks up, like, oh yeah, Hudson told me to, yeah, he told me you might be calling back. Oh, and then they sell it.
Awesome.
That was kind of a little bit of a hack that I saw more surprising success for than I thought it would be. A little bit more than other things we've done. So we do those sometimes.
That's great.
Um, for our existing customer base, one of the things that helps us get good reviews is our newsletters. We put out funny newsletters sometimes.
Mhm.
Some of them are just dumb. It doesn't have to be like, oh, here's a technical thing about pests. Sometimes it was like, yeah, one of the ones we did was like bug mythology, and we had it like all look like, Greek mythology or whatever. But it was like, here's a funny thing about pests that people often think that isn't the case. Um, so, fun bug facts. Some things that are, you obviously want to theme it around pest control a little bit, but it doesn't always have to be oriented toward making a new sale. That helps with retention. It helps customers like stay involved for them to get something like that in their email. And then it's also great for reviews because you put the link at the bottom, like, hey, if you like our services or liked this newsletter, leave us a review. And we've gotten good reviews about people being like, oh, I love the fun bug facts. Great. It's like, yeah, little things like that. They're always fun to do.
And you, these newsletters are emailed newsletters, like digital newsletters.
Yep. Yeah, digital email. Yep.
Awesome.
We've
Well,
done
that
mailers and stuff before.
okay.
We haven't found a lot of success in mailers, like sending stuff to people to physical mailbox. Everybody does it. Everybody gets however many things a week from random companies trying to advertise something. It's
Mhm.
it's good to keep in the loop, but I've just learned that it's easier to send those to people that have opted in before. Maybe they're not using our services now, or maybe they are using our services now. Stay relevant in their minds because they've had an experience with us. So.
Interesting. Um, so so let's talk a little bit about like you've identified so many different sources of potential clients, which is great. Maybe not every business has these kinds of opportunities, and I think it's just because they're in these geographies you've picked. There's near universal need for pest control at some
Yeah.
point, and but let's talk a little bit about how you keep everything straight, and organized in neat ways. Like you, what if you had somebody go door to door and like, the salesperson had a nice chat and they were like, well, not now, maybe later. Um, how do you like make that work with like, can you coordinate that they like get a reminder in a few weeks or a call from your call center? Can you coordinate those kinds of things?
Yeah, so I mean, there's definitely a lot of interaction that happens with customers with our door-to-door salesmen,
Hmm.
and they send, we do a lot of training for them, right? We want them to represent the company well. We want them to be honest and forthright about how everything works, and they're really great people. They're usually very personable. It takes that kind of person to be on the doors, and so they, oftentimes just start a good conversation. And if they do, they're encouraged to get the person's email at least, even if they're not interested right now. It's like, hey, could I at least, get your number, get your email? If they can do that and they can opt in, well, then we can communicate with them. So that's one of the things the door-to-door guys do. Assuming that's the case, yeah, we have drip campaigns. Where it's like, hey, thanks so much for talking to our sales guy or whatever. Like, we'd love to do service for you. Let us know if you do see any of those little ants pop up, just like your neighbors are seeing. Something like
Okay.
that. We do different automations in that sense. Did that answer your
Yeah.
question?
Yeah, and I basically what I'm getting at is like if they're, the drip campaign concept I think is really important. A lot of businesses don't do that, and because you often have quality interactions with potential clients that whether it's budget or timing, like I just happen to be just leaving the
Mhm.
going on vacation. And the follow up is a little bit lacking,
Yeah,
or some people
100%.
take a long time to decide. They're just, I think we've got decision fatigue. We got to make so many decisions every day, and they just want to sit on it for a little bit. But the nurture campaign, tell us a little bit more about how you structure those nurture campaigns. How do you know that somebody's worth putting into the nurture flow? How do you think through
Yeah,
that?
yeah, good question. So if they're not specifically somebody we never want to talk to again, then we assume they're worth
Okay.
talking to.
Uh-huh.
If it's somebody that we've had a super negative experience with, or something like that, we have a little tag in our system that we put as a garbo, like somebody we don't want to contact again. It's a garbage lead.
Sure.
And so we obviously don't contact those people, but everybody else that's ever opted in, we consider as, a possible client, somebody that could, want services, somebody that might see ants this year. And so we, we send out frequent newsletters to our existing database as well as people that have just opted in that aren't current customers, where we send, those drip campaigns to. And it's really, sometimes it's an offer, sometimes it's hey, here's some fun bug information. Nothing too pushy, just keep us in their minds, right? Because there's a lot of companies out there marketing our same product. We got lots of competition, and so somebody goes and knocks on their door, and if they, maybe they used this before, but maybe it's one of our competitors knocking on their door, and they're there right then with a deal, and they're likely to do that if they can't think of a reason not to, and they have ants. But if they got an email from us the day before and they looked at it and said, "Oh, hey, oh yeah, I remember Tri Guard. They're offering a deal right now." They see that. The next day, one of our competitors knocks on their door. "Oh yeah, no, it's okay. I actually have somebody," because that's in their mind.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
then they call us later. And so it's a lot about just staying relevant and being kept in people's minds that we're here. You know, Pest control is a pain pill. It's not one of those things that people are very proud about when they have, a horrible pest issue that needs taken
Mhm.
care of. And so it's not necessarily a social thing like a lot of things that can be marketed. It's a pain pill. It's something that people will need at different times throughout their life. And so just reminding them that we're here for when that needs to happen. That's the goal.
Yeah. Well, that's great. And like you said, you have a process that's consistent, and you put a lot of people in this process so that
Mhm.
with many things, it's a numbers game, and it's both the number of touch points you have and the number of people that you're
Mhm.
contacting. So that's fantastic. Let's talk a little bit about like key performance indicators for the success of your business. Are there two or three that you really keep an eye on to monitor the health of the business and like know, are we going to have a good season, good year,
Yeah.
in advance even?
Yeah, good question. So it's a little bit different for depending on the place that we're
Mhm.
looking, right? So if we're looking at the door-to-door salesman or even my in-house salesman, for their personal performance, we're watching their conversion rate like a hawk. Like how many people do you talk to and how many are sold? You
Mhm.
know, that tells us how good a salesman is. I mean, if you talk to a million people and only sell one, you're a really bad salesman. But if you talk to 12 people and you sell 10 of them, it's like, wow, you're really good. And so conversion rate's huge for the salesman. Additionally, the contract value, right? We have standard pricing, but the salesmen do have a little bit of the ability to give discounts here and there. And we encourage people to stick to the standard pricing, but every once in a while they're allowed to give a discount and everything like that. So, I mean, we watch that as well. When a salesman's able to get a high value customer, somebody that has a real need, and he's able to sell it at the reasonable price, and it looks good, and we're making good money off of it, and everybody's happy. Um, then that's what we look at as well as far as success for the salesman goes. So that's one thing we look for the salesman side. For the marketing side, like from my side, what I'm doing, I'm looking at the cost per acquisition, like
Mhm.
100%, right? I mean, there's obviously a lot of metrics involved. There's cost per click. There's a lot of different things that you pay for online. But when I'm thinking, how much money am I dumping into this system, and how many actual customers am I getting out of it, right? There's an industry standard.
Mhm.
How much do we want it to be, right? When we have a door-to-door salesman go out, we're expecting to pay him quite a bit of commission on it because that's the only money he makes. And so the cost per acquisition for door-to-door sales is significantly higher than it can be if you're doing it right online, right? If I'm doing it right online, I can figure out a system that, works really well, and then it can just be a slot machine, put money in it and get something out of it.
Yeah.
So we're looking at that a lot too, cost per acquisition. And then um, for reputation, for how our company's doing, for our reputation online, it's 100% reviews. What do we look like on our reviews? That tells us whether or not we look good online.
Okay.
So
Okay.
those are
Um,
probably the biggest things I look at.
one of the things I wanted to ask about cost per acquisition that ties back to our
Yeah.
earlier chat about channels and how you prioritize. Fair to say that Google Ads has been like your, the best return on that? Is that?
Yeah, good question. That's actually why we're leaning into that more,
Ah,
right? Because the amount of money that we've ever poured into it has been a good cost per acquisition, right?
right.
It's not just because it's like, oh, we like Google more than others. It's like,
Mhm.
it's really, I mean, you can buy sales pretty easily, but the
Uh-huh.
question is it worth it? And so cost per
Sure.
acquisition tells you that. And there's a lot of factors, right? It's not just the cost. It's not like, okay, well, let's say to get a qualified lead from Google, it's going to cost me $75.
Mhm.
And let's say from Angie's, it's going to cost me $75. right? Well, if the lead is a little bit easier to sell on Google, if the Google leads are warmer, then I'm going to be getting more of those sales, even though they had the same cost per lead, right? That doesn't
Mhm.
necessarily equate cost per acquisition, because
Right.
if I'm able to sell 10 of the Google ones, but only 5 of the Angie ones, then there's a disparity there. And then additionally, the cost that goes into it is, the ad that we created, our marketers, but even what we're paying the salesman who sells it, right? That contributes to the cost per acquisition. So the question is, you take all the money you spend, and you're going to divide it by all the sales you got from that. That tells you how much it cost, and that definitely guides where we go,
Yeah.
100%.
So uh, just curious, like when you've identified that Google is, the best return, do you feel like you have room to grow in there? So, because like in theory, if you found that it's the lowest cost per acquisition, you could shift more and more of your budget towards, the most profitable channel. Do you feel like you've maxed that out yet, like in terms of Google?
Um, nope, we're hoping to max it out this year.
Okay.
So
Okay. So we'll
we're
actually
actually
hit the
doing more
point
of
where it
that.
like starts leveling with the other channels.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, exactly. We're actually trying to, yeah, we're leaning a ton into Google this year,
Okay.
more than we ever have. Simply because just looking at the data from our last few years and everything, it just shows that, the cost per acquisition for a lot of the other lead sources isn't nearly as good, and we historically haven't put nearly as much into Google as we probably should have been. And so that's what we're leaning into this year. And so maybe we have another one of these conversations at the end of the year, and I'll
Yeah.
tell you
No,
how it went when we put even more into it.
no, I'd
So
be curious, and this is real meat and potatoes of marketing is making decisions based on the return you get on those
yeah,
invested dollars. And really interesting. And it's probably nice to be in a phase where you haven't quite topped it off, because that means you obviously have room to grow and
yeah,
can do that. There's going to be some point where you've hit all the people that are searching for pest control in this geography, and
yeah.
any more spend would just be would start lowering, or I mean start increasing your cost per acquisition. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and there's definitely a point where you have to have a good strategy on Google. There's a
Yeah.
million one ways to market on Google. There's a lot of different details in the campaigns, how to focus on keywords and all that stuff. So
Hmm.
there's definitely got to be a good strategy there in order to make that cost per acquisition worth it. Because you can waste money on Google too if you do it wrong.
Yeah, yeah. Now you have a lot of human powered channels, like for sales, that, and
Yeah.
big part of your business. And um, AI, just to jump to that topic, is people in many roles are concerned about their job safety, and
Hmm.
AI does have some capacity to manage aspects of the sales process. you
Yeah.
know Beyond that, even in other aspects of marketing, what do you think is, or first, have you experimented with any use of AI, and what do you think about is the
Yeah.
future of AI in your
Yeah.
industry?
That's a great question. So we've done some stuff with AI and other chatbots before. Like we've tested having a chatbot on our website and everything like that, as well as response to reviews and things like that
Mm,
that we've gotten on Google. We've tried that before. The only thing that I'm hesitant about it is there's a margin of people that it really helps, right? So when you consider that, like, there's a significant amount of people out there that need pest control, and let's say this amount of them are a little bit antisocial. They'd rather go on a website, they'd rather fill out their information, they'd rather click buy without ever having to talk to somebody and then have the guy show up later at the appointment they scheduled and stuff like that. It's like there's a lot of automation that can be done that way, and there's a margin that really helps. And so I'm totally behind that. Um, I have found a lot of value in still retaining a certain amount of that face-to-face like interaction with the customer, right? Or phone to phone, right? One of the things I've noticed is when we have paid into different lead sources before, oftentimes the lead sources where you're buying leads from will send the lead to 5 companies, right? They had 5 people buy the lead from them, and whoever calls it first and sells them gets it, right?
mhm,
And so we've done some automation with those, but we've learned that a lot of companies lean so much into the automation that it's actually quite easy for one of my guys, if they get on the phone and have the personal conversation with them, to get the customer to relate to us and then trust us more than the other company,
mm,
because there's that face-to-face interaction, right? So take that with a grain of salt, because although that is valuable, there is a significant amount of data entry, there's a significant amount of system processing as far as CRM integrations, and the general follow-up automation to start anyway, that you will lose a lot of customers if you don't have some form of AI helping with that, right? I still do value at this juncture. We'll see how it goes in the future. At this juncture, I do value having a little bit of that face-to-face interaction. And by the end of this sale, where they're talking to somebody, it's a lot of manual work. And we pay. There's pros and cons to that. We still have a lot of manual things that happen, but it does build a lot of trust with our customers. But that beginning stage, the customer filling out their information online and getting that confirmation that we're about to reach out to them, or even that first text message that's just like, hey, we do have your stuff. My guy's going to be reaching out to you soon. We found a lot of value in those things, in those automations, in those AI. AI specifically, one of the things that I have loved it for is content creation.
Mm.
Like when it comes to digital marketing, it's ridiculous. I mean, it just used to be so hard to you had to have a real artist to help you make something,
Yeah.
that you wanted to run as an ad, or to come up with good wording for something you're trying to post. But AI is this great tool in those ways. So I definitely, when I look at AI and the things I want it to do for me, I'm looking at content creation. I'm looking at system automations, how I can make my systems more smooth for even my employees, the people that are doing the work for me. How
Mhm.
can I make it smoother for them? How can I cut out some of that fluff, the stuff that all the manual stuff they have to do to make it a little bit quicker, a little bit easier for them, and just get them to spend as much time on the phone as possible, talking to people, having those face-to-face interactions, or those voice-to-voice interactions. So, does that
Yeah.
answer your question?
It does, and and
Yeah.
obviously, like, opinions vary, and on AI, we're deeply immersed in it, and trying everything we can just to so we can be educated on the topic. And
Yeah, 100%.
I think I generally agree with you. Like, you can't go 100% AI on any process. You do need a human touch, really, to be persuasive. And sales is so much about connection and trust, and AI
Yeah.
isn't quite it's not hasn't crossed the
At least at this
inclination.
juncture, I think it's something that we
Yeah.
should be putting a ton of energy toward figuring out. Because if you don't touch AI at all, you're going to be miles and miles behind,
Yes.
in 3 years from now. So it's important to get familiar with. I'm not trying to dog on it.
Well, and I think you're right. I think even if you aren't ready, you think your business isn't ready for it, or your customers don't like it, you should still be using it. And because
Hmm.
it gets better every day, like you said, with content creation, just a couple weeks ago, the free version of Chat GPT can generate like production quality images with the right prompts. And
Yeah.
that's a game changer. And so
Yeah.
it's,
100%.
you know, definitely a skill that everybody needs to have, regardless of where you are in
Hmm.
your career. And so, Hudson, this has been a fantastic discussion, and lots of like real meat. Like I said, I feel like people could learn a lot, whether they're in home services or in other industries, just with how you think about your costs and your returns on different channels. And
Hmm.
and I mean, I think, I kind of know the space a little bit from experience, but a lot of people that I work with, this is totally foreign. The door to door stuff. I was
One
one
of the
day I
things
was
that, oh, sorry, go tell your
I was gonna
story.
say, one day years ago, I was a Mormon missionary knocking door to door, and I know how hard that is. And um, I like would never choose to do that again, but but like it works, and it's still a channel for a lot of industries. So.
Yeah. No, 100%. I was just going to say one of the things is it's so funny about the industry is, it requires constant adaptation, to the point that I've noticed that even the professionals still sometimes don't know what we're doing, right? It's like
Mm.
it's all about being able to take the situation, recognize that it's a constantly evolving market, right? Even socially and politically, laws change, advertising rules, statutes, regulations. You have to change things a lot. And so a lot of it has to do with, number one, I always say this to people, is just like, be a good guy, right? Show up when you're supposed to show up. Be kind to
Yeah.
people. Have a good attitude. That's one, obviously the biggest things. But then just be willing to change and adapt. right? And that's one of the biggest things. That's why sometimes when I'm explaining some of our strategy, it's like, well, this is actually what we've done, but this is now what we're doing. We're learning as we're going. Um, and because of how fast things change, you have to be in that mindset, right? You can really kill it one year and just be like the guy on top. And then if you don't change your method by the next year when things change, you could be the guy on the bottom. And that's just how it works in the industry. And so it's important to think outside the box and be constantly watching things, make sure you're networking, make sure you're talking to people that have tried different things and brainstorm together. And it's why we're willing to do this. That's why I'm willing to be on here and share some of this. It's just,
Yeah.
it's helpful to get the information out there, and it's helpful to learn it from other people as well. So
Well, thank you. Those are great closing thoughts. And, Hudson, it's been a real pleasure. And, maybe we could do this again in the future. I think maybe we'd be interested in hearing on, how your efforts in growing
yeah,
your Google channel have gone. And, but other than that, you've given us a lot of gems of wisdom. So thanks for joining us.
yeah, sounds good. Thanks, Reed.
Want to stay ahead of what's actually working in marketing right now? Head over to MarketSurge.io and see how we're helping businesses grow smarter, faster, and louder. That's MarketSurge.io, because your next breakthrough shouldn't be a guess.